Welcome to Cyber Ahead with AI, the podcast where we explore how AI is transforming cybersecurity from strategy to execution and what's really working for today's leaders. I'm your host, Parth. Each episode, I sit down with founders, CISOs, and innovators who are pushing the boundaries of security and technology. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Zhou, CEO, and Alan Gustanov, co-founder and director of strategy, both from Gopher, the team behind quantum-resistant AI-native approach to zero trust and their new Gopher MCP for model context protocol environments. Ed, Alan, welcome to the show.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Parth.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Awesome. Well, of course. Thank you for taking the time. Maybe we can just start with a quick introduction. Ed, we'll start with you and then go to Alan.
Sure. I will start first. I really appreciate to have us for this podcast. So we're like cyber guys in the cyberspace for a couple of years, since 2019, 18. And then we initially built some like consumer cybersecurity product which is very successful in operation till the end of the day. So I think back to like 2022. 23, I would remember. So we start thinking of how do we protect our customer data, which is in privileged access space, and lock down that space. So we build our early version of the Gopher security. We call it baby Gopher, where we protect our customer data. So then later on, we realize a common problem, this privileged access control, lock down the console, we involve this Gopher security product and then make the enterprise ready. Right? So that product is a post-quantum next-gen zero trust for enterprises. Then most recently, we have this a new product offering which is called Gopher MCP, Model Context Protocol. There's big gap, and then there's a low security, low visibility, and we need next-gen connectivity for the MCP server and agent collect each other, right? And then we tapping into this space and we implement the open source protocol MCP and push to the community. And then we can give you a product such as you have legacy API, and you can use our product that like instantly spin up an MCP server. You don't have to do anything right away. You have an agent native experience for all your like SaaS applications. So yeah, we have two products, Gopher Security and Gopher MCP.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Ed. I'm Alan, Director of Strategy, co-founder here at Gopher Security. I joined the team last year, saw the amazing work they're doing with post-quantum cryptography. And I feel like, well, we're trying to solve some of the most critical cybersecurity needs that are out there in the world. So especially with the looming quantum threat. I mean, we're seeing the massive advances that are happening with like Majorana 1 chip, Google Willow chip. It's able to solve computation 11 years faster than the world's fastest supercomputer, which is longer than the universe existed. So it's like numbers that we can't even fathom in our mind. That's how fast these computational powers are happening. And so with that, the big major threat is like our standard RSA PKI encryptions are going to be obsolete. And so there's a really big push to transition to post-quantum cryptography. And, so it was more of like a sci-fi theoretical conversation a few years ago. Now it's like actually a strategy conversation. And I feel like a lot of organizations, CISOs, are really pushing to adopt post-quantum cryptography. And that's where Gopher fills that critical gap because, we're using things like Crystal's Kyber, which is this standard protocol for quantum encryption. Yeah, so that's basically meeting those needs as well as for MCP security. That's another critical gap because, the traditional ways like everyone builds, and then security comes as an afterthought. And so what we realized with MCP, model context protocols, no security in place. So it's basically like the Wild West for security because you essentially expose yourself to the AI ether where anything could happen. Your data could be exfiltrated simply with a easy prompt. You could have your phishing attacks could happen way faster than they could have before. So a lot of these critical threats is what Gopher Security laser targets, and we're trying to solve all of this as quickly as efficiently as we can.
That's absolutely fascinating. In a world where everything is already moving so fast, you're absolutely right. It seems like there's this new gaping hole that's starting to show up in security, right? From advanced cryptography to when you're working with human identities, I think it's very well defined how you can start to practice like least privilege. But when we're talking about AI agents starting to work with each other, you're right. That's the wild, wild west. From your perspective, is it just AI that changed that's kind of changing the paradigm, or is this a coming together of a lot of different factors at the same time?
So my takeaways here is like a combined. Yeah, it's combined. So, especially think of the agent, how the agent is running compared with that web-based applications. The landscape of threats is totally different. If go back to the web era, you only like download file, run some file, click some like phishing links, and then you get compromised, right? But compared with the agent approach, so you have the agent everywhere edge location on your computer, on your phone, on your cloud. So those agent is not just that passively interact with you and also proactively because you look at MCP protocol and from client to server, that's one way, and from server to client, they call the server send events SSE, right? Meaning this bidirectional interaction that will make your that computer make your user side even more vulnerable because what if the MCP server you're interacting with the server side, the send events from a server side? Hey, give me this API key, give me this secret from that user's computer, right? That's doable with MCP, totally doable. But without MCP, like web area, you only click something and you got compromised. You are vulnerable. If you don't click anything, you're totally fine, right? MCP is totally another story. So that's make every side of the system, user, machine, or vice it's really, really vulnerable. So got a lot of stuff you have to taking care in order to get a peace of mind regarding security, regarding the guardrails of the system. Yeah, you'll be combined, and there will be like a magnified effect of the cyber threats, I would say.
Absolutely. Yeah, I certainly agree. It's definitely combined. Especially the volume of attacks because of AI has gone up dramatically. There's studies that show that 86% of organizations they're experiencing machine takeovers. So it's not just only human error, human engineering that hackers are targeting nowadays. And we've seen some demos actually of these things called like evil GBT, warm GBT, where it's like chat GBT but for hackers. And it's so alarming. Like you see how fast it could just generate a phishing email. Like you could just tell it, oh, write me a phishing email for, Amazon or AWS users, write a ransomware file for Amazon users. And it instantly codes it for you. Any level of hacker, even if you're not a sophisticated hacker, all of a sudden they have access to all of these tools and then they could crank them out at volumes too. So that's like the really scary part because before the big bottleneck was you have to make the malware, you have to figure out ways to like get it out there, send out these emails. And now it's just like a factory that's able to crank them out for you. The cat and mouse game in it because you have to outpace the hackers try to outpace you, but it's like an ongoing chase that we always have to stay one step ahead of
Yeah, that's so true. And someone once told me that the hacker has to be right just once, but when you're on the defensive side, you have to try to be right every time, and that's hard. So obviously, the world is changing in front of us, right? AI is kind of shaping and changing what we do on a day-to-day basis. And it's funny that I'm going to use the word traditional for things that were relevant as of last year. What's missing or like what's broken in the traditional zero trust network architecture or SASE playbooks that a lot of these larger companies have today?
So yeah, I would say there are a lot of missing pieces. There are a lot of space a traditional solution need to keep up with or involve with. For example, on top of mind is those tools fragmentation, right? You look at the current landscape of the tools regarding their trust regarding that SASE. So they all work on the layer 7 traffic. They protect your traffic which on layer 7. Design layer 7 is only one piece of the modern IT infrastructures. And you need, in order to make the IT system work, you need layer 3 or 4 or 5, 6, all the way to 7, right? So if you only, this vendor only takes layer 7 traffic, what if for your network security? Right? What about your identity security, right? So those why you need to go to different tools, different vendors. So that's why you look at it, the purchase, the orders of the companies regarding the security, the IT tools is going to stockpile. Okay, a lot of tools. Even the medium-sized companies are looking for like tens of tools, right? So I think what we learned from the industry is consolidation, fragmentation of the tools is a big problem. That's why we learned very hard. We consolidated all those tools into a single platform, which is Gopher Security, Next-Gen Zero Trust. All right. So what do you get as a customer is you don't need a different tool from different layers, right? You need a one tools, which is Gopher. I can protect your network, which is on layer 3, all the way above to layer 7, right? And because of less number of tools, you can reduce your complexity of management. You can save a lot of budget, and you can also have less people to manage your entire system. Yeah, that's all thanks to the consolidation, the tools. That's one thing. Another thing, I think missing puzzle is there's a post-quantum angle we talked about it, already discussed it, right? This kind of legacy system, they're like skyscraper. They has been built out for years now. They're running, and there's a lot of legacy issue, legacy connections here. So like a certificate, like this transit encryption, all based on PKI. So those one doesn't evolve, doesn't work with the post-quantum era, right? So in order to survival and to be quantum resistant, okay, and for them must be a repair and replace because the system's legacy cannot work, cannot just bring some layers on top of that, right? Have to be like redesign, rebuild. Okay, so that's where Gopher fills the gaps because we don't have the legacy problem. We just build everything ground up, right? So that's why we designed our protocol. We use the Crystal Kyber for post-quantum. We use the Lopez protocol for end-to-end encryption. We designed our two-phase handshake protocol put together, and we give you layer 3 tunneling capability. I collect all the dots, user to machine everything. And then if we come to deployment side, the organizations, government, they work with the legacy system side by side because we're on layer 3. That's why they can bring the other applications, the level of traffic run on top of our layer 3 tunneling, right? So that makes that in adoption, the deployment really, really smooth, really, really like hassle-free. But yeah, second angle is like post-quantum, workers post-quantum is another piece. There's another one I would just want to toss out, which is that proxy versus proxy-based approach. If you look at the big vendors, they all have to use a proxy-based approach, meaning they set up entire complex that infrastructure, which is proxy. So and then all your customer traffic has to reroute to their infra proxy. Right? From there, they do all the security checks, and they send to the destination coming back. Right? So this is has a lot of problem. One side, they increase the latency, they give the bandwidth degradation, all the problem comes with it. You can observe the lagging of your system you're running, especially scale up. And also for this highest demand of security requirements, data privacy perspective, that's also not a good idea because you send the traffic to there, they inspect, they do TLS termination, right? They can see the entire your traffic loop into your traffic. For the DoD case, they run a system like the air gap system. They never allow the traffic to go out of the boundary, right? So that's why they cannot adopt those kind of legacy zero trust or legacy SASE. So with us, we go different approaches. So we always give you peer-to-peer tunneling. So we implement lateral traversal, collect all the dots, user to machine, user to server, vice versa. And from there, we help you do the handshake, connect each other. And after that, it goes as a step out of your data plane pictures. Okay, never be part of a data plane, and you all guys get peer-to-peer connected end-to-end encrypted. So that's why we get it for us. It's very good for banking, for DoD, and those highest the standard requirements of security. They deploy our system because of end-to-end encryption, right? We say end-to-end encryption doesn't mean that you don't have those proxy traffic inspection. So indeed, you still have those capabilities. That will be go to your the customer management environment. So if you want to do the traffic inspection, fine. You can spin up a couple of machine servers, right, on your side, on your environment. And from there, you can still can do the traffic inspection. and with our built-in security features. But we are not lever in part of your data pick, so data player, okay, but control player only. So these are three key points. Kind of recap here. The one is that post quantum, and the other one is like tool fragmentation. The last one is they always have to use the proxy based approach, but we don't.
Yeah, I think those are really great points. I'd also add micro-segmentation because, some of the biggest companies like you see in the news, the breaches, the hackers move around laterally, they break into one part of the network and all of a sudden they're able to access an entire network. And that's a big risk with traditional VPNs too, because they give you that broad network access. So that's a single point of failure that we're looking at solving as well, because having that peer-to-peer connectivity, it eliminates that single point of failure. And so you're not giving hackers broad access to your entire network where they can move around laterally undetected as well. That's a huge problem because, they could be undetected for months on end, encrypting data, installing ransomware, stealing data. And so you see this happen in some of the biggest companies. And also unauthorized access. That's a big problem as well. So one cautionary tale, it's just recently happened with 23andMe. So it was an ongoing attack that was happening for 6 months, and the company had no idea that this attack was even occurring. Our theory is probably a brute force attack where they were credential stuffing, and eventually they must have gotten into some admin accounts, we assume, theoretically, and then they were able to exfiltrate the trial data, the genetic data of 2 million users. And once the company finds out that this was already exfiltrated, but it's too late to go back now, they got sued by 2 million of their customers. And then, a long story short, the company went bankrupt overnight. Basically, that they got sold for, I believe, like 5 or 10% of their net worth, it was a unicorn company that basically disappeared overnight because of one mistake and one attack that went on undetected. So that's why it's very important to have those day one threat detection measures in place, have those advanced authentication mechanisms as well, because standard 2FA is no longer sufficient. MFA is no longer sufficient because there's advanced tools that bypass MFA and 2FA. And so like it makes it more and more critical. It's the cat and mouse chase that I was just talking about earlier. So, always got to be a step ahead to make sure things like that don't happen.
That's fascinating. So it sounds like everyone's trying to deploy the agents out there. And here you guys have come up with a way to, one, have eyes on what the agent's doing. So there's almost like a detection piece to that. You are also making sure that they have the least amount of access possible to do exactly the task they need. So the who, what, where. And you're essentially doing this in like the post-quantum P2P way so that it's extremely secure. That's fascinating. Wow. Okay. That must be a pretty tough challenge, I bet. Can you unpack one thing for me? Maybe Alan, you can start this time. Is you talked about this post quantum P2P, and then we're seeing different vendors do individual pieces like AI authentication and inspection. Some might be doing just micro-segmentation pieces. Others are doing ransomware containment. But it sounds like to me you guys are doing all of this, and based on some research, even policy generation and runtime inspection. Can you help unpack that for the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So our approach is we call it the defense in depth 2.0 strategy. So it's a layered defense system. So essentially, we protect everything from your data in transit, we protect your endpoints, we protect your corporate assets, and then your entire network. We give you, like Ed was mentioning, there's an issue with having disparate tools and tool fragmentation. So Gopher Security is solving that angle of it and also giving you the layered defense system because, like we said, from layer 3 and above, we're protecting who gets to access what, because that's a big issue with, giving people access to resources that they don't necessarily need to access is a risk point that we solve because you deploy that policy by allowing certain people to get to a certain threshold, but not beyond that. So if a person could have admin level policy, but for a contractor, for example, you might want them to have only a view level policy where they could see the data, but they can't read or write or change anything. And then also Like nowadays, the big issue is a lot of people are working remotely, so hybrid remote workforces. So that presents a big explosion of attack surfaces because you have everyone accessing, critical corporate resources from all over the place. So that remote access needs to be secure as well. So you need to have a way to allow your remote workers, even if it's like maybe a traveling salesperson or a consultant or someone that's working from a coffee shop, like us, for example, we're connected from different parts of the country. And so we all need to access everything securely and safely. And so if you're working from somewhere from a unsecured Wi-Fi connection, like how do you secure that? Or if you're working from the airport or from a hotel, so you need to have a way to have direct peer-to-peer access and secure connectivity that doesn't expose you or your client's data. And so that's basically what we're solving. We're allowed to connect directly without needing to have any type of exposure to any of your data, and also like segmenting that network as well.
That's fascinating. So, Ed, let me ask you this, right? Where does Gopher sit in the stack? It sounds like there's an IDP piece, there's an EDR piece, endpoint detection and response, there's the zero trust network architecture piece, and there's the data security element. And so, is this a new market, a category that you guys are really going after,
No,
creating?
I think back to your question, the Gopher strength is networking. Yeah, networking. So we have a certain level of endpoint protection, which is a
Mm-hmm.
authentication, right? And then we have the policy, but we're not in the IDP space. So we work with a mainstream IDP provider like Okta, Microsoft, Google, but we don't provide the IDP, right? So the way Gopher running is think of a software-defined parameter, that picture, imagine, right? You want to like create a parameter for your data, for your assets, for the user, for your server, like how you create a WhatsApp chat group, right? You want to have a group for friends, for hobby, for family. Those groups don't talk to each other, right? The same way we give a tool on the SDP software defined parameter, you create that one for different purpose, right? Essentially, it's a virtual network, right? You create a network for like for retail case, you create a network for city for each store. You create it for back office. You create it for your POS machine, or you can create it for contractor, right? You can create tons of those virtual network, right? Once you have a network, that's where you highly segregate assets, right? And you put a user in, invite a user, give access to, and you put your server in. Okay. So this is invite only. You put this both pieces in. That's where you segregate things out, and the user have chance to talk to the server peer-to-peer end-to-end encryption, quantum encryption, and vice versa. So because there's so many like this kind of a network segment, that's how you really do the micro-segmentation without readdressing your entire network, right? Imagine those segments, those chat group style. And then, so of course, on top of this network segment, we do have those advanced capability. We call it policy, granular policy enforcement, right? Because even this user server in the same network segment, you still want to restrict who and from where they can access, right? Goes to the policy. You can on demand create it as enemy, and those policies will on the fly push to the endpoint and server side and protect you from there, right? The policies are advanced pieces, all right? So on top of that, from user side, we don't really address the endpoint security, but we do have a very advanced capability called context-aware authentication, right? Those are contextual information, including device postures, including the browser information, device ID, fingerprint, all those security postures, right? And we collect them, they send over the wire, match with your policy, right? You specify, you want to enforce what are some factors you want to match: location, fingerprint, IP, device ID, right? All those factors on server side you enforce, on the user side you collect those factors, and then between we help you match together. If none of them it doesn't match, and you kicked out, and we don't allow the access, right? So you say network segment on this side and policy, granular access control. User side, you do the context aware authentication, right? So that's how we protect you. You think it's not IDP, it's not endpoint security, but we give this a very strong lateral segmentation, process policy, process context-aware authentication, so we can protect your different pieces of your company holistically.
Like, what kind of agent actions are occurring that should be allowed or blocked in some of these production examples that you guys are coming across?
Those agent, right? The agent is there's like client side, there's server side. Okay, I would say. So in this case, you're talking about MCP context. I would say those MCP or those agent on server side, they have those example. They have those like malicious prompt, right? So the agent interact in a way they have different parts of the command. The one is the tool call. Okay, it's like regular API call come with like the signature function and the parameters and also on the side and come with a description, right? So there's very many. The description doesn't really match with the tool call specifications. That's why when the agent or the client interact with the server, the agent, then this description of the MCP server, they can hallucinate the prompt. So that because of hallucination, that's where you can hack. For example, a very quick point case is there's tool, and you can use that tool to look at the weather in your local city, right? But the description of the tool is asking for transfer some the currency, right? And the agent prompted into the MCP server is doing the weather check kind of protocol just because that description are hallucinated and they can hallucinate mistakenly and prompt this orchestrator, which is an MCP client, doing this bad thing, right, behind the hood, and ask for transfer some cryptocurrency, right? So those are very good examples. There are a lot of like pieces behind the MCP server, behind the tool cost. So you have to identify and you need a dedicated security tool such as Gopher MCP to protect you from there. Because like I explained, this client to server send event bidirectional communication channel that make your entire client computer and user side is really, really vulnerable. So you have to take care from there. Those are like some agent, some MCP tool calls. You want to block it from there. Yeah, and I can add a even more like context if you have.
Yeah, there's a lot of little hidden like tricks bad actors can deploy. Even I saw an example where you could hide a prompt injection inside the code where like a not careful user might not think of scrolling all the way to the right where the code is written, but there could be a big empty space that's left over, and you hide something that commands the AI to extract your login credentials, maybe says like, give me your login credentials and password, and then the rest of it looks like a regular prompt, but it could be something as simple as that, as hiding it inside of the actual code. Or like Ed was mentioning, if it's another issue too is when the MCP, the acceptance fatigue could kick in too, because at some point, if you're accepting all of these different MCP servers and it kind of becomes normal, just click through it, and someone might notice that it might be a malicious one that they could accept, which will then, act maliciously and like go undetected as well, and maybe still steal information, because you basically expose it to do whatever it wants. So, you could expose it to all of your data, and then it could like attack you from there. Extracting a cryptocurrency, doing things like that, because essentially gains total access to your infrastructure. So those are all definitely big risks because, it gets your hands on your everything inside of your data.
And that's scary. It sounds like there's just so many more new entry points now with AI, and every company using more and more AI. It just means that the attack surface is ever expanding. It's only going to get worse from here.
Absolutely.
So, you know, any how are customers approaching this type of security right now? It's obviously very new. And so, is this something that you still need to educate, or are a lot of companies already feeling like they can't keep up with this anymore and they need dire help?
I think on the educational piece, it's definitely part of doing the education, but also as far as like people who are all building AI tools right now, everyone's building a lot of AI tools. And so, like you said, MCP is the big buzz right now. Everyone knows about MCP, everyone wants to adopt it. So I feel like for the developer community, it's actually something that they know, and they also know that they need the security piece for it too. So it's like, there's a big wave of MCP coming, and that's why with us at Gopher, we made our MCP open source. So there's open source for all the development. And it's, because we're seeing that there's a big need for that. And we kind of want to make it open source to also grow with the new companies as well. So we have that type of strategy in place. And then if there's obviously like the more advanced like quantum encryption mechanisms, those could be upgraded too. But I feel like to serve the community, the open source model is what they can actually benefit. And for those that might not need that educational element of it, it could be a big help. And then we also feel like we want to do our outbound campaigns with more educational material as well. Like something like this is very helpful to educate people on the risks of it and also on the benefit side of it, because obviously all the utility that's coming with MCP, people need to also be aware of the risk factors so they can mitigate those risk factors, because not only for like their business side, but also like compliance requirements, things like that, and also not exposing themselves or their customers to threats like that if they might not even be aware of it. So I feel like those are all like critical things that people should be aware of and also be educated on as well.
So adding on top of that, there are two type of people. So if you're in the AI space, you're either building AI or you're investing in AI, of course you use the MCP. You don't have to spend time to educate those people. But there's a lot of type of people. They're from the web application side, right? They have like SaaS application, web application. They're all use REST API. So they want to adopt the AI. So the way I'll give you, imagine you have a dashboard, right? Console dashboard from the SaaS application, right? You still have to click through those buttons, those links, right? That's the web experience. But nowadays, everybody moved to the AI. You always use the prompt to use the system, right? So compared with that, of course, the prompt is definitely better because when I use Figma to design my, right, I want to modify, remove the background, okay, get transparent one. I don't know nothing about this design. And the Figma, this AI prompt way, right? I just typed it, hey, remove this background, give me transparent one right away. I got it, right? So even I don't have the design experience at all. So that's why sooner or later we're going to move to this prompt only way to interact the user system. So back to the web applications, then you have to click through. And those guys want to deliver this agent native experience, which is prompt way, okay? And then what they do is they, of course, they have to adopt the MCP to get there, which is the only way. And those people probably you need time educated, okay? They're asking, how do I get the prompt? Okay, and you will say, oh, you need MCP. And then they're asking, what's MCP, right? You can spend a little time talk to, hey, okay, forget about MCP. What if you want to give customer prompt with your system? From there, okay, you need MCP, right? Those are people you want to educate a little bit more. But back to the market strategy, that's not our current focus. Our current focus is we want to work with the AI founders, or the companies who are adopting AI. They already know the stuff they're talking about, right? Because it saves time to educate, and then you can easily to get into the market and land a lot of customers from there, right? But I would say the legacy REST API web experience, that's a huge market. That's huge market, and everybody can transition to prompt way. So that's why from our product or offering side, we built a tool called Gopher MCP, the on-demand MCP server, meaning how we transition the web experience to the prompt experience, and then you just upload your open API schema from the Postman from Swagger, right? The document to our Gopher dashboard, right? Where you have your customer. You upload JSON schema of the API and it clicks through a couple of minutes later, we're gonna spin up a Gopher MCP server for you. Okay. And then your own Gopher MCP server is gonna work with your own chatbot to prompt it, right? So and then we help you to take care that the security and also connectivity pieces, right? Those are three unique value provided. And then whatever you prompt your chat box interact with your backend system, the request will go through your own Gopher MCP server. We help you to spin up and manage it. And then your MCP server is going to reroute the traffic through your REST API coming back to your your customers. So we're kind of in the middle, the gateway wall. We protect you with the security. We give you full comprehensive visibility, and you got peace of mind. You still focus on your REST API development, but you right away you have the prompt agent native experience.
Yeah, to add like what the beauty of that is like what MCP is actually capable of. For Gopher, for example, we have a lot of implementation configuration steps where you want to add a user to a certain network, create a policy for that user, allow them to give traveling rules or things like that, all the different configuration pieces. And now instead of having to go into actual settings and configure things in the dashboard, you'll be able to talk to it like natural language and then say, hey, add Parth to this network, allow him, he's traveling to Chicago on Friday, allow him traveling rules, allow him access to our CRM system when he's there, things like that. So you just talk to it naturally. So essentially, like someone could become a CISO overnight, even without that deep technical experience and that deep technical knowledge. Definitely the future is very exciting where the MCP's headed to. It gives us so much more capability, makes things a lot easier.
Wow, that's really cool. I heard two amazing things in there that I really liked. One, it sounds like your strategy is go for, AI native first. No need to educate that market, but really sounds like you have something in place that even for the legacy, it's funny that we're calling it legacy now, the legacy web market, simply plug in your, I guess, Swagger API specs, and with you get time to value in a matter of minutes where you have your server up, it's secure, and I guess using simple English, you can set up policies. Gone are the days of IT tickets for access, huh?
Exactly. That's true.
Uh,
I would say there's a big transformation regarding the CISO, the title and role. Probably they like to listen to this part, but you see that, like Alan said, in the future, very soon, come very soon. All right, even non-tech savvy person can manage the entire like IT or security infrastructure just because of all this like prompt agent native experience, right? And everybody gonna build into because you don't need those super complicated click-through experience, right? That need a lot of domain expertise. There's no way, right? That's also you when you find those people, it's super expensive. You need dedicated security team, you need dedicated CISO people to get there, right? For those SMBs, they all want to save the budget, consolidate the tools. So what do? Right? You do this prompt way to interact with the system, use the tools, right? That's the only way. So yeah, maybe the CISO people don't like this, but that's kind of the thing is happening right now. Okay, even ourselves, like I said, we build a Gopher dashboard, still the old school click-through experience. Right now, we deliver a chatbot, right? You only use a prompt, though, right? Manage the entire system. So, like, you could be a CTO, CISO. You could be a VP of technology and a CISO same time, or manager, IT manager and a CISO at the same time. Just because all the prompt, how easy you use our system.
Interesting. Interesting insight. So I guess help me understand, right? Who is economic buyer right now for you? Would it be the CISO, the head of AI? Is it early stage founders? And like, what have you learned about the deal size, the cycle, and what's really moving the needle in the market right now?
I think we can break it into two parts. The one is Gopher security. The Alan can update it a bit more. The buyer side.
Yeah, absolutely. So for Gopher security in of itself, the economic buyers would be like the cybersecurity teams. But since the with us, since it touches a couple of different departments for networking, infrastructure. You also have there's the security infrastructure. And it all just depends on the size of the organization. So if it's SMB, mid market, typically sometimes we might even run into situations where there's not a dedicated cybersecurity team. Where kind of Gopher does hit that sweet spot because we help them, offset those missing security gaps and help them provide tools that they could, very easily control and have full visibility and have incident responses, all of those critical tools. And then when it comes to larger organizations, usually that would be the CISOs and the cybersecurity directors. And it also depends on what initiatives they have in place because it could be initiative to transition from VPNs, and we might be, or also maybe for someone who wants to secure cloud for cloud security or application security, we might have to talk to a director of cloud security in that instance. So everyone has a different role in the use cases that might apply for Gopher. But obviously, like when the economic buyer comes into place, usually would be the CISO and whoever else is a part of like that committee. But and that's the thing about enterprise sales too. Like it could be like a conversation, a 2 minute water cooler conversation that could completely change the deal because it might be like someone already provides that, our current vendor already does this. It always comes down to identifying those pain points and make sure that everyone agrees that those pain points are there, and then that this is how we could get to solving them is by using Gopher, and that like Gopher actually solves all those critical pain points.
So I want to add a Gopher MCP as that persona economic buyer is a little bit different. So right now we use a bottom-up peer-to go-to-market strategy. So that's why we host a lot of events, and then hopefully next event I will see you from there. I will send link to invite you. So the way the economic buyer for Gopher MCP is, I would say is like a founder that with tech as well, we've been a CTO. MCP versus Gopher Security, they're different product, right? Gopher Security is actually target the core department of people like lateral security, lateral department, like IDP system, like some other, right? That will have more impact. That's why there's a higher level of decision maker and the CISOs, CFO, which is who's underwriter eventually. But MCP side, it's more like bottom up approach and focus on the AI and native companies. They're building AI system. They're like trying to transform with the AI experience. And those people, it's easy to talk and easy to approach because they know what they're looking for. They don't have a legacy issue, right? This is new, it's something new. It doesn't like replace their legacy system because they don't have it, right? Easy to talk with them, and the economic buyer with like a CTO or tech co-founder, those kind of people. And we talk to them, and then because they know they're going to deploy MCP, they're going to transform their legacy API with MCP, agent native experience, and then they don't want to go through all the hassle, security, visibility, everything, right? We give out of box capability to take care of every single piece of like that, right? So that we can close the deal very quick, and the sales cycle is very short. Within 1 month or two, sometimes in a couple of weeks, and that would be good enough.
And thanks for that clarification. So it sounds like MCP is kind of one of the newer offerings. You have Gopher Security has its entire enterprise play too that touches the different cross-functional teams from the CISO's office to infrastructure to networking, all those good pieces.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay, got it. Thank you. That helps. So, I know we're close to time, but just last question. Some would say the term post-quantum or MCP security is a door opener, right? It sounds cool, sounds modern, sounds forward, sounds like you guys are literally building the future of tomorrow today. But how do you navigate that conversation from a technical differentiation to essentially business outcomes?
That's a great question. So we just, with the advances that are happening in quantum and MCP, it's the thing is like to kind of stress the risk factors in it as well. Because like like I said, people see the utility in it, and it's easy to get excited about how great and how much computing power we're going to get and all the amazing advances that will happen with technology, especially if you combine quantum with AI. And it's kind of like us shifting the view from the beauty of it and what the future has in store to what could happen on the flip side if we don't take proactive measures and we don't protect ourselves. So it's kind of like being a Debbie Downer about the negative sides of it, but also educating people like you have to be prepared, hope for the best. Well, the saying goes, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. So we definitely want to drive those things home, and luckily there's organizations like NIST, like the National Institute of Standards and Technology. They're also pushing for those types of security measures, and so we're not like the only ones like on a soapbox preaching about like doomsday is coming, but we're also like aligning with professionals that say like this is something that's serious, and we all have to be prepared for the worst case scenarios as well. So, and the people who are obviously educated and experts in the field, they understand what needs to be done in order to protect us from this. So like they see the value in it. And it's on the roadmap for a lot of conversations. Like I was mentioning earlier, it's not like a water cooler conversation anymore. It's a strategy conversation, especially going into next year. So we're seeing a lot of motion in that direction happening, certainly.
That's awesome. Ed, your thoughts?
For the MCP side, I want to add a little bit, how do we translate that tactical to the business value, right? So I already discussed it like that. So you have to click through. Those are old school experience, right? It takes time, takes the expertise to understand your system. Right, you don't have to. Okay, every layman person can chat with the system, manage the entire system, right? So how we like deliver the value? If we like do a demo to our potential customer, what we do is bring them to our demo, which is a Gopher dashboard where you manage your system, and then we never click through. Okay, we always like use a chat. So create a user, this email. Okay, create a network for your POS machine. Create a network for your back office, right? What or like chat with somebody, and then instantly behind the hood and the system is generating the user creating this network and the next so okay give this user a remote user access to this possible machine network, right? And then everything goes to smoothly and then you don't have to click through, right away you got this everything set figure out finished. That's where you actually see the resonance, you see excitement, and all this audience a prospector, the leads, people, the easy meeting, and they say, okay, man, this is like really life-changing experience. We got to get into it, right? And you don't have to really educate them. Sometimes you just demo like how easy their use system compared with the people. Even they don't need any kind of expertise, right, to manage the system. They will see the visually, right? They will see the visually. They will see the emotion. So they're gonna just adopt it, right? So that's how we translate the value. Use a real demo. You don't have to like mentor them. You don't have to educate them. They just say the value right away.
That's amazing. Ed, Alan, thank you again for sharing your journey and your insights. It sounds like, Gopher is onto some really, really big things. What's the best place for listeners to, follow Gopher's progress or get in touch?
Yeah, our LinkedIn page. We have a LinkedIn where we post regular updates. Also on our website, daily news articles, post quantum news, cybersecurity news that we're constantly publishing. So Gopher.security has all that critical information, all the new information, and then also our LinkedIn page would be a great place to follow us as well. And on GitHub for our open source repo, that's also a great place if you want to see what we're doing and start our repo. It's a good place to check out our work and implement it if you're using it too.
Yeah. So we have like Gopher MCP, GitHub open source repo. Make sure you guys give a star, and we build a momentum. And beyond that, we started hosting events a lot, right? When you search the Luma, we use the Luma, the apps and community to host the events. If you search the Gopher Security, you will see the account, and they can have a list of events and the upcoming. And our most recent event is October 22nd. That's talk about the AI security plus the networking founder and investor networking mixer. And then we have like tier one and the venture firms come up to 10. We have like a high profile speaker who's the advisor, and their entrepreneurs have like 6 million exits combined. It's gonna talk about the Halo speaker, talk about the AI security. So everybody come to our events. We have some very good food and snacks for you guys. It will be very evening for that life.
All right, well, count me in.
Yeah, come for the AI, stay for the snacks.
Amen.
Or the other way around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you always say you always you always say go for security events, and I'll do my the San Francisco Bay Area everywhere. Okay, you ever say that?
Yeah. And also, we push our Chicago chapter events on Luma as well. So we'll start hosting those probably going into next year. Maybe it's like if we have a chance to do something towards the end of the year, but most likely starting in January. But we'll start hosting Chicago branch. So any of your viewers that are in Chicago, will be on the lookout for Gopher Security in Chicago.
Awesome. Well, Ed, Alan, thank you so much for your time, and to the audience, thank you for tuning into another episode of Cyber Ahead with AI. Until next time.
All right, thank
Thank you very much.